Presidential candidates in the 2023 elections have been speaking on their plans for the country in the areas of security and the economy. Peter Obi of the Labour Party, Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso of the New Nigeria People's Party, Kola Abiola of the People's Redemption Party, and Ifeanyi Okowa, who represented Atiku Abubakar of the People's Democratic Party, all spoke at the first in the series of the town hall meetings organized by Rise News in conjunction with the Center for Democracy Development, CDD, and other partners. Rise correspondent Bunarimam Benjamin reports.
It's the first in the series of town hall meetings for presidential candidates contesting the 2023 elections holding in the nation's capital, Abuja. 4 frontline presidential candidates are here to provide an insight into their plans for the country if elected in 2023. Addressing players from different walks of life and critical sectors of the economy, including organized civil society, the candidates state their position on how to address the deteriorating insecurity across the country.
There's a need to go back and address our security defense architecture. It's always been us going out of our architecture to run defense and run security. And that's why the whole thing has collapsed to date. We need to go back and address that. We keep talking about faults in the system, but the truth of the matter is that we have never actually implemented the system itself. At PRP, we intend to go back, look at that system, and make it work the way it should work.
We have made adequate arrangement to have about 1 million military, Army, Air Force, and Navy. And with that, we believe we are going to take over every square meter of our land in this country. Police, 230,000 at the moment. We want to also make it to about 1 million.
There was a failure of processing and giving due attention to intelligence, which I would have promptly dealt with. If I was commander-in-chief, we would have acted swiftly, and throughout that process, would have remained in communication and at least shown consistent empathy to the families of those that are involved.
Obviously, we need more boots on the ground. There's no doubt about that. That would definitely require more persons. But the approach to it with the pen, yes, add some more. But in the medium term, we must be looking at devolving the police force such that the states should be able to have their own police and operationalize their own police.
The candidates also explained how to fix the economy, huge unemployment figures among the youth, deteriorating value of naira, oil theft, and the dying manufacturing sector due to epileptic power supply.
We are going to stop anything that has to do with the stealing, from the villa to civil servants to contractors to all our assets, including the oil itself. We have so much that is happening in this country. The records that is available to us, we have seen even solid minerals being shifted or transported out of the country on a daily basis.
You can't borrow money to do subsidy, because at the moment we are borrowing for everything, every capital expenditure, even for the subsidy we are borrowing. So that's not the pathway to go. We must find ways of generating more revenue internally, and all those things that are no longer functional, government enterprises that are not functional, that ought to be making profit, we need to send it to the private sector.
We have to not just look at debt from our foreign debt and the foreign exchange part of it, but also our domestic debt. We have a huge domestic debt in Nigeria. Collectively, we're looking at that figure he said, 1.1 trillion. We need to look at that debt. How are we going to fund it? We have to make sure we have a strong capital market to do that and make it tradable.
If there's need to borrow, I'm not against borrowing, I've always advocated it. You borrow for production. If we borrow for production, then we would have been better off today, even servicing our debt. So I will do whatever it takes to ensure that we bring a balanced budget and strictly borrow for production, which will grow the economy and be able to pull people out of poverty.
The candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Bola Tinubu, was absent at the town hall meeting with no representation. Punaraman Benjamin, Arise News.
But let's bring in our guests joining us tonight, Arise News analyst, Professor Abiodun Adeniyi, and Arise Director of News and Politics Editor, Sambo, to x-ray the issues. Thank you, both of you gentlemen, for joining us on Newsnight tonight. Let me start with you, Abiodun Adeniyi, Arise News analyst. First off, your reaction to the Obidati campaign organization position that, yes, presidential, town hall, not a debate, must be presidential in every ramification. No surrogates and no vice presidential, or running mates. What do you make of Dr. Doyokupe's position?
Well, I think these are intriguing times, but we also have to understand that debate or an opportunity to participate in a town hall meeting is another opportunity for you to express yourself, to state before the populace, using the channel that is organizing it, and to let the populace know what you are up to, and why they should vote for you. It's just a privilege, just a platform, and of course, it shouldn't go beyond that. But I wouldn't bother really if any party chooses not to attend a town hall meeting or a debate, as the case could be, because it's just like saying that we're offering you a platform to come and express yourself, and you are declining it, which means that the populace might decide not to choose you at the end of the day if they are not hearing you enough. But we also cannot run away from the fact that there are different platforms. We're in the 21st century, where channels are multiplying, where venues for communication is increasing. And of course, if a candidate says that he doesn't want a particular platform or a particular program, maybe town hall or debate, as the case could be, they are also free to choose to use any other channel to express themselves. Cognizance of the fact that channels are increasing, like I said earlier, and of course the populace too, the voters are at liberty to punish them or reward them for coming or for not coming.
Right.
We are in a democracy, and democracy is not just about governance, it's essentially about choices. We can also continue to make those choices, and the choices is not also limited to voters. Even participants, even actors, politicians can also make their choices. And I think we should just allow everybody to express him or herself as he pleases, in so far as the system or the structure is not disorganized.
Right.
Indeed. Sambo, let's continue in that line of conversation. We've also seen a response from the APC saying they will not go to any single media house campaign or debates or town halls. Instead, they are holding theirs. And then in case of the Labour Party, they seem to say we will not be paired with surrogates because our principle is available. And I think that was one of the key points, key moments in that town hall meeting yesterday. The role of the vice president and the president, the office of the vice president. How important is that conversation? We also had former President Goodluck Jonathan only recently making a case that it should no longer be a spare tire. Should we be having this conversation? How significant is it?
Thank you, Adeswal. Let me start first from the issue you talked about that has to do with the formats and, of course, all other issues that you raised. As it stands right now, Arise News took a decision to actually organize a town hall meeting, as Ngozi said. And we took a decision not to make this a debate because we wanted a convivial atmosphere of sharing ideas, just like you would have seen yesterday. It was never the intention of Arise News to actually, prepare grounds for a vice presidential candidate to come. But if a representative was sent, isn't it a respect of the voters, for the voters, that, okay, someone has already shown interest compared to someone who didn't even show interest to come, and neither did he send any representative. So it's in the interest of respecting voters and our viewers that, of course, an editorial decision was taken that since the vice presidential candidate was already there, we're just going to plead with others that he should go. And of course, The idea of making it look like the APC is telling Nigerians that it will have to organize its own platforms, they should understand very well that you cannot set exams for yourself and pass. Just like Professor Jibril Ibrahim of the Center for Democracy and Development has said earlier on one of our shows. He said it very clearly that when you set an exam for yourself, it means that you already know the metrics that you're going to use to assess yourself. So Arise News has been very open and fair to all candidates. And I know this because, I've been involved in presidential debates since 2011. I remember when we did the NN24 presidential debates. I remember in 2015 and 2019. This is taking a different dimension. Now, in 2019, for example, there's a particular a sort of pseudo town hall arrangement that was brought in place by Kaderia Ahmed called the candidate. If you look at what we did at Arise News, it's a top-notch town hall meeting where people express themselves. And so from that perspective, it would be good to be very clear to the APC that the decision, the idea of them thinking that they will have to organize their own town hall meeting is akin to setting an exam for yourself, setting question papers for yourself, and you want to mark it yourself. And of course, I don't think that's what the voters and the electorate are looking out for. Then, coming to the issues of the Labour Party, yes, they've taken a decision, but I can tell you that it's not good for them. As a new political party, you should be open to every platform. While I understand their concerns that where you don't have other presidential party of the presidential candidate of the legacy parties, that they wouldn't be there. If we are to use the metrics of organizing presidential town halls and debates based on elected representatives at the National Assembly, you and I will know that the Labour Party as a new political party will not even be given a seat on the table because they don't have elected representatives at the National Assembly. So we would, if we want to use those metrics, have preferred to go with the SDP, to go with maybe APGA, which already have elected representatives at the National Assembly, because Labour Party is here to be tested. So it can be akin to APM or other political parties. But you can see that because of the temperature of the political climate and the respect, editorial decisions were taken to actually justify this in such a way that the Labour Party should be thankful to media organizations like this, because it wasn't only Arise News. You have the Nigerian Guild of Editors, you have the Guardian newspaper, the Cable, you have Leadership, you have Punch, and all, including with the respected global think tank, CDD, coming together to put this. So the idea of APC singling out only Arise News, or maybe Labour Party trying to, think that it was an error of judgment on our part, I think it's time for understanding. And the best deal for Labour Party, if I will advise them as a political strategist, is for them to embrace all platforms, because they need everyone, unlike the legacy parties that think that they already have some voters. Now, on the other aspect you talked about very quickly, Adesua, there has always been this controversy about the position of VP and presidential candidates. The president is the one who takes charge. And once it's a presidential campaign, the ticket is held by the lead presidential candidate. And so if he or she decides to delegate authority, it's acceptable in other climes. But we understand the perspectives that people are coming from, that if it's a presidential debate, then it has to be a presidential candidate. But that's why we said it's not a presidential debate. It's a town hall meeting where there will be a convivial atmosphere for exchange of ideas.
Very well put, Sumner. Let's come back to you, Prof. there, Adini. Let's look at the overall performance. Did you hear what you needed to hear from the candidates, whether you're talking about Kwankwaso, Obi, Okowa, who was representing his principal, of course, Atiku Abubakar, and Kola Abiola? Did you hear what you needed to hear in the area of security, especially when you hear them? Most of them actually said, look, we want more men or more boots on the ground. Of course, not discountenancing the fact that technology is very important. As far as Kola Abiola was concerned, the fact that security systems has never been used, that's been in place in Nigeria over the years. Did you make sense of all they had to offer on security?
Well, I thought all the candidates tried, and they spoke essentially from their own personal experiences, predictably anyway. First, the Labour Party candidate, typically was always ready, responding to questions in a free-flowing style, having been very forthcoming in the past couple of months, and of course, he wasn't shy, to render his ideas. Again, leveraging on his on his famed
his ideas strong enough to make a case for him that would convince Nigerians as they go to the polls.
Because I was coming to my point, please, and I was saying that yes, he tried leveraging on his own personal experiences as a former governor, and emphasizing his famed characteristics as a prudent, good manager of resources. And of course, he had ideas, he had what he wanted to do on different sections, and in this case, particularly insecurity and economy. But I thought he was becoming a little more repetitive, which is why going forward, he will need to do more consultation, more researches, so that he can expand his range of solutions. Because he's been very forthcoming in terms of pontification, we need some more creativity, and those creativity and originality can come, if he expands his range of consultation, perhaps with the experience of other nations that have been in our own shoes and coming out of the kind of doldrum that we are presently in. Otherwise, I thought, he was typically okay as well. Typically okay. Then, of course, Governor Kowa, the only person in government who participated in the debate, he didn't do badly, of course, again, using his own experiences and, of course, confidently too. But I thought it was, somewhat easily irritated, by the jabs that his colleagues were directly or indirectly throwing at him. Maybe at his level, I wouldn't expect him to be that. He's a human being. We saw some bust-ups from other colleagues as well. But holding brief for someone else, who is higher, I thought he should have been more temperate. But of course, overall, he didn't do badly.
And when they say the dialogue with IPOB, Boko Haram, and other non-state actors or agitators, how realistic really is that?
We do not expect anything else other than dialogue, because we are talking about people who have been angered by some levels of exclusion. And exclusion has a way of affecting people's psyche, people's ego. And of course, in a multi-ethnic, plural society like ours, we need all egos massaged, through the instrumentality of inclusion, inclusion in state machinery. But you didn't allow me to talk about PRP and Kwankwaso, in fairness to them as well.
Ahead.
Yeah, Kwankwaso, of course, former governor as well, but again, he did very well, leveraging on his experience as a former governor. But again, it's important for us to also know that, he has to grow beyond the Kano achievement and see how he can externalize his vision beyond Kano and surrounding states. PRP didn't do badly as well. He tried, because he is the one without any experience in government. But if I thought it should have been more robust with more research on our problems, particularly the question of insecurity, where he was insisting only on the absence of a meeting. I do not know how the absence of a meeting can resolve the problem of insecurity. I was expecting him to talk about basic problems like the proliferation of light and small arms, overpopulation, depleting resources, joblessness, deindustrialization of forests where bandits are operating, etc., etc. Those are granular details that I expect the presidential aspirant to talk about. But I think there are still more opportunities for them to improve on their performances, and the sky remains their limit.
Indeed. This is not just for the voters, but also an advantage for the candidates. Sambo, very quickly, do these town hall meetings make a difference, really, in election outcomes? And do you think that they will matter in this particular election, where we have, about 4 front runners at the moment, we can say safely?
Yes, at this way, it actually makes sense for a lot of voters, because they listen to this candidate. If you listen to that Arise News Town Hall meeting, it was a confluence of ideas. You could see a festival of ideologies where people were expressing themselves, where they were not, under unnecessary tension, unlike what a debate provokes. You could actually see, for example, Kola Abiola from the PRP that people never even wanted to give a thought to, selling ideas from a different perspective. And then you could see someone like Peter Obi trying to sell himself to the public. And that's why I'm surprised that they had to hold that press conference saying that, look, if they don't see the legacy political presidential candidates in other platforms, that they won't appear with them. This is the best opportunity that has been offered to someone like Obi, to someone like Kwankwanso, and someone like the PRP candidate to actually confront the bigger political parties. And it gave an idea to the voters that, look, there are people who are thinking about how to make Nigeria great, who are creating better alternatives than what we have from conservative politicians. And if given the opportunity, they could actually experiment things in such a way that could change our country for good. So you see, from this festival of ideas, it gives the voters and even those who don't want to vote an opportunity to have a rethink. Those who are apathetic may want to have a rethink and say, look, I just need to go out and vote because I'm hearing some things that make sense.
Now we do expect that we'll be having more headlines and stories from this Space Setter Town Hall meeting by Arise News channel in collaboration with other partners, including CBD. But we have to thank you both for sharing your analysis tonight. Sambo, our politics editor here on Arise News, of course, and we have Professor Abiodun as well, who is also our news analyst, Arise News analyst. Thank you both.